Hi, I'm Euan.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is
Popcorn and Cumin, a transatlantic dive into film and media.
with a healthy side of unrelated nonsense.
Welcome to Popcorn and Cumin.
And that very well performed voice means that we're doing this week's episode on
Vampires. Dracula.
Not actually, we're actually doing it on Twilight too.
Yeah.
One of our hosts' delight. I'll let you guess who.
Twilight, the more classic, well-known, beloved vampire
Yeah, it's
tale.
the classic vampire story in many ways.
It is.
Count who? Nosferatu who?
Very good.
Any other ones? Nah.
Well, as you may have figured out, hopefully, we are doing this episode on Twilight, despite 20% of our listeners' dismay who voted against Twilight.
This is another reminder that you should follow our Instagram, where we do some engagement with our fans. We let you vote for things from time to time, such as Twilight versus not Twilight.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Twilight, this is probably the most, historic victory in a poll ever, because you had one very specific option and one very not specific option.
Yeah.
So there was a choice between Twilight or anything else. And Twilight won with an overwhelming majority, a super majority.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see a super majority in the polls next week or next month in the UK election.
And the American one.
Yeah.
Gosh, let's not think about that. Okay, well, before we get into the meat or the blood of Twilight.
Nice.
Yummy blood. First, we are going to try to be brief in our cross-border factoid segment.
So, do you want to go first?
I'll go first. Mine is very quick. In the UK, people say they're going to go to the cinema. In the US, people say they're going to go to the movies. The end.
Nice.
Mostly. There are probably some weirdos who
People say,
don't
let's
do
go
that.
catch a flick. Let's go catch a movie. Let's go.
Maybe people like 50 years ago.
Let's hit up the picture house.
The moving pictures.
Yeah, but maybe cinema is not used in America. That's maybe the grander point.
No. Yeah. Or you would say I'm going to a movie theater. We're going to see a movie at the movie theater. Whereas here, I think you would say we're going to go see a movie at the cinema.
Didn't Harry Styles in his most recent album have a song called Cinema?
Yeah.
People are probably like, what the hell's he talking about?
Okay, well, people know what a cinema is. Or I feel like people in the US maybe would use cinema more broadly to describe the movie sector. Cinema.
To describe something of high quality. This is cinema.
Maybe
because
that too.
I think that's sometimes actually a distinction used between movies and film. Movies doesn't sound as sort of grandiose for being oh, this is a piece of film.
A piece of film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I
something
guess.
you'd put over some
A
cookie
piece of
dough in
cinema.
a fridge.
Yeah. Yeah, well, movies sounds quite sort of casual and laid back, as is the American way.
Yeah.
Or
I think
kinda
actually
dumbed down.
maybe film and cinema have kind of similar connotations, and movies is the least sort of snobby one.
Yeah.
If you see
I'm going to go see the film.
Yeah, it's oh, I'm into film.
I'm going to go see a film at the cinema.
As opposed to be I like movies.
That's me. That one's me.
Yeah. And I'm a film fan.
Oh, you like to go to the film?
I'm a cinema fan.
A cinephile.
Exactly.
I don't know what accent I'm doing. I think it's kind of French and English. All right.
Better
Sorry if
cinephile than something else.
All right. Okay. Well, now we've both offended people. And you can move on to your cross-border factoid.
So my cross-border factoid is that people in America love driving. So much so that the whole country is built around driving, more so than probably any other place in the world. And there's a lot of good reasons for that, in that America, or the United States of America, is a massive country and was kind of built up during an era where automobiles were used, and so a lot of cities are quite built around cars, and you don't have crazy backcountry roads like you do in the UK that are hard to drive around. Generally, you have nice wide roads. Driving's pretty easy. You're loving life.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the freeways.
I mean, there are a lot
highways.
of back roads.
Yeah.
Especially in mountains and stuff. Those are awful.
Yeah, but they're probably not roads that were originally built for horses something that have had to be converted.
Definitely. Well, probably not. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think public transportation in America is absolute poopy.
Anywhere apart New York. Apart New York.
Yeah, I think in general, the East Coast, definitely New York, but the East Coast is better at public transport. I know Boston also has like an okay subway system and such. But like on on the West Coast, our trains are so freaking slow. They're so, drive from Santa Barbara to where I'm from, the drive is 5 to 6 hours. The train ride is over 11 hours.
Yeah.
It's just
you
chugging
can probably walk
along.
faster.
Yeah, it is very beautiful.
There's probably people walking, like you're on the train and you're seeing people walking past the train.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is basically how fast we go. But there was supposed for years and I don't know, 30 years.
That's
I don't know.
It's super real.
Yeah, we voted on, not me, because I wasn't even born yet. It was voted upon to have I forget what the word is, a fast track train up and down the West Coast.
Straight to the front of a Disneyland line.
Yeah. But now here we are, I think at least minimum of 30 years later, and nothing has been done.
Where'd the money go? That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know.
Should have built a monorail.
But anyway, I completely agree. The US needs to get its shit together in terms of public transportation.
But what I was going to say is actually the car culture is, I would say, even more like ingratiated just like within people. Like there's much more of a kind of idea that if you're going somewhere, I feel like the level of how far people think is acceptable walking distance in America is less than it is in the UK.
Listen up, everyone. Euan's idea of what is a far walk is totally warped. You are not speaking for the UK
okay.
here.
Well, the way you go on with your house in Northern California, I won't say where for data protection purposes, you make it seem as if you're in the middle of, desolate, as if you're on some sort of farmstead about 10 miles from civilization. But you can't walk into town.
No, yeah. Euan's always talking about walking into town in my hometown, which would take
like 40 minutes.
Longer than, I think it's like 50 minutes.
Yeah, maybe at your pace, not at my pace, my strides.
It's near an hour, which
maybe round it up.
Living in London, it is true that anything below 40 minutes and under, we will usually walk. But that's, even for London, most people don't do that. Most of my friends and most people I talk to, if I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to walk home, they're like, you're going to walk home? How far is it? And I say 40 minutes. And they're like, just take the tube.
Yeah, well, that's why I've got money spilling out my ears, because I don't have to pay for the tube.
I walk a lot as well.
Yeah, I know. Well, I see the money spilling out your ears and your pockets.
So, but I think that our, and especially your idea of what is far to walk is crazy.
Yeah, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe the cross-border difference is that Euan is not American.
Yeah, you are the problem.
Maybe we're going to have a problem. Okay, well, we're moving swiftly on from that difference. I feel like that's not maybe our strongest work, but, that's not the main event this week.
No.
It's for the grand discussion of Twilight. So, obviously, Twilight is a vampire story, or a supernatural romance, really, because there's not just vampires in it, there are werewolves. But not really werewolves, kind of like just dogs, kind of like just wolves.
Big wolves.
Yeah, the wolves in Twilight are kind of indistinguishable just from wolves. So.
But they're big wolf boys.
Yeah, that's true. They're not sort of long, skinny things like in Harry Potter or other wolf lore.
No.
Or like American Werewolf in London, the lost episode of Popcorn and Cumin. Who knows if that'll ever emerge. So what I thought would be an interesting little aside before we get into the real meat of the discussion, or the blood, as Sarah was saying, was to talk about the history of vampire stories. Sarah's yawning. She's already bored. And what is, I think, interesting is that romance, or ideas of romance, and particularly eroticism, has always been tied up in vampire stories. So it's not just this new age of, your Twilights and your True Bloods and your Vampire Diaries and whatever other crap is popular at any one moment.
Actually, I think right now werewolf romance is real hot, and vampire romance is not as hot.
There's a lot of nutting involved, I hear. It's disgusting. What? Nutting, isn't that a thing?
What is that? Oh.
Yeah, like to do with like...
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we don't need to be that explicit.
Yeah, well, you didn't even know what it meant at first, so that's fine.
How do you know what it means?
Because your cousin told me about it. So, the first vampire story, Sarah, what is it? The first, really popular one?
Nosferatu.
No, that's an adaptation of Dracula.
Oh.
You're wrong.
What?
It's actually... It's actually The Vampire by Lord Byron. Now, Lord Byron famously, I think, is the grandson or nephew of Byron, who was a castaway on the Wager ship.
That's why that sounds familiar.
So I read a book by David Gran, came out last year. Sarah's also read it. She didn't like it as much as me.
I liked it.
You still liked it. Just not as much as me. That's okay. Like, I don't like Twilight as much as you.
Well, that's true.
But I still like it, maybe. Who knows? So Lord Byron, he's like a famous poet. He's much more famous than Byron, the ship boy who was cast away on the Wager. I would recommend that book, by the way. So he wrote a story or a poem in 1816. Now, what's interesting about this poem, Sarah, is that it was written on the same day or around the same time as Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because a bunch of authors or writers of that era were kind of trapped in a house, or I think maybe there was just bad weather or something, and they were like, oh, we've got nothing to do but read each other sort of supernatural stories, and then we should all write one, like a little writer's retreat.
Really?
Yeah. So Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, or had the idea for Frankenstein, and then sort of put that into a novel. And this Byron guy, Lord Byron, wrote The Vampire. Now, important to note, this is vampire spelled with a Y.
Why?
Yeah. Why? Now, apparently Lord Byron was a kind of like dark and brooding womanizer type figure. He was kind of popular in that sort of way at that time.
So was this like a writer's retreat?
Well, who knows? Who knows what they're going up to? Well, maybe there was a different reason why they wouldn't go outside. But apparently Byron, the character of the vampire he kind of wrote, people seem to think is maybe autobiographical in some way, which I thought was interesting.
Was the idea of a vampire as like a myth? It was a thing before that though, right? But this is kind of the first modern vampire?
Yeah, so in, I guess, maybe English literature, maybe this is like the first really prominent example.
Okay.
But obviously in folklore and mythos, it goes back further than that.
Yeah. As we see in Twilight when Bella's doing her research.
Very good research on Bing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway.
So just to kind of put things into perspective, Edward in Twilight is compared to either Byron or James Dean. Now, James Dean was like a famous actor from like the 1950s who was kind of like a smouldering Hollywood bad boy type figure. And then he died really young. And it was a bit
in Twilight that he's compared to these figures?
No, like I'm reading an article where it says that.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's from Carol Fry, who is a professor at Northwest Missouri State University. So shout out to Carol. He or she then goes on to say that young women and tween girls love the image of a damaged, morally questionable young man who nevertheless can serve as her protector while she reforms him. What better way to invest a character with such qualities than to make him a protective vampire, bad by nature, but good by inclination? Now, do you think that fits Edward in some way?
Yeah, I think that's maybe what Stephenie Meyer was going for.
Yeah. Moving on, the idea of vampirism, you have the 1890 story Dracula by Bram Stoker, and there definitely is sort of romantical elements in that where there's kind of a weird love triangle between the narrator and his wife, and Dracula, who becomes obsessed with his wife or wife-to-be upon reading his journal or something, or stealing his letters.
Babe, I haven't gotten that far in the book yet.
You've read that part.
Have
You must
I?
have.
Oh,
that's the whole reason he
mind.
goes to London, I think, is to try and steal her away. And there's a lot of, he has these weird wives who are locked up in his castle, who are like naked, and there's a lot of like sexual overtones in them.
Yeah.
And
they're his wives?
yeah, I think they're called like the wives of Dracula.
Oh.
And then Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, which came out in the 90s, which is meant to be a kind of a truthful retelling of the story, is very overtly sexualized. We watched that one. There was a lot of nudity and a lot of, I feel like they really played up the romantical elements of that.
Did we watch that?
We did. It's the one with Gary Oldman in it.
Oh, the movie. But it's
Yeah.
still Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, the movie's called that.
Yeah, okay.
To sort of heighten how it's meant to be a true telling of the original story. But even before Bram Stoker's Dracula, there's a vampire novel called Carmilla, which is written by an Irish writer called J. Sheridan Le Fanu, where in it, Carmilla the vampire tries to initiate a lesbian affair with the narrator. So this is, I guess, the trope where apparently vampirism, or the idea of vampires, just became a way for writers to talk about sex without getting censored.
Okay.
Which then comes into the 20th century. There's someone called Anne Rice, who was apparently a very popular writer in like the 70s and 80s who wrote vampire novels. She wrote vampire novels, and I think a lot of it was just kind of a way to write about sex in a way without being censored. Which maybe brings us on to, I guess, an interesting link. So, Sarah, what if I was to tell you that the, tragic events of September 11th, 2001 were to link all the way through to 50 Shades of Grey? What would you think the link would be?
Here's the link.
Okay.
Robert Pattinson
Yep.
is in Twilight.
He is.
50 Shades of Grey is a fan fiction of Twilight.
Yep.
Robert Pattinson is also in a movie about 9/11.
Okay.
Called Remember Me.
Is he?
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go, linked.
Okay, well, that was not what I was thinking, but that's a double link. So really, the link, I mean, that is a good link. But 9/11, without 9/11, there actually might not have been Twilight, right? Now, here is what happened. So, 9/11 happens. Gerard Way, who is the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, witnesses 9/11. He's living in New York and decides to form My Chemical Romance, the band, right?
Okay.
And that is then influential to Stephenie Meyer writing Twilight. Apparently, a lot of My Chemical Romance songs in particular were very influential to the creation of Jacob, the character. That's what she said. Yeah, I don't know why. Because I feel like the stories in My Chemical Romance are more about the vampires and he's the werewolf, so that's kind of confusing. But then My Chemical Romance, they inspire Twilight to some extent, and then Twilight is rewritten into 50 Shades of Grey by notorious charlatan E.L. James.
Why did we have to go to 50 Shades of Grey?
Just because that's another cool, because people might not know that. I feel like that is the most well-known part of that sort of linkage, but...
that 50 Shades of Grey is Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, how could you make Twilight any better? Make it not
BDSM.
Supernatural and BDSM. Yeah.
And the billionaire romantical.
What I was kind of interested in terms of the fan fiction part of that is, does that take place like after the story, or is it like a rewriting of Twilight with BDSM?
I can't answer for sure, because all I know is that it is fan fiction of Twilight. But to me, it feels more like the characters were inspiration for a new story. Like, it's not the same story, or it's kind of similar. Maybe it's like all these remakings of a Greek myth. Twilight has now become a myth. It's folklore. And so 50 Shades of Grey is the adaptation.
If something's published, can it really be folklore? So the idea of folklore is kind of like it's passed down from mouth to mouth, like a bird feeding its young.
But I mean, like, Greek myth stuff was written down. Norse stuff was
Homer.
written in the Edda.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that right? Is that Norse, the Edda?
Yeah, I think that's a loose sort of translation of what it could be. Just to close the loop in the My Chemical Romance part, My Chemical Romance were consistently offered, they were like, please do a song for the Twilight movies. I'm sure we'll talk about the soundtrack of Twilight at some point in this podcast. They were like, please do a Twilight song, and they were like, no, we don't want to sell out. I'm not actually sure why they didn't want to do it. It feels like they just didn't really like Twilight or something. But
I feel like that's their loss, because they were probably imagining the soundtrack was going to be super fruity or something. But the soundtrack for Twilight is notoriously super good.
Super good.
It is.
Super good.
Super massive, nova, awesome black hole good.
Yeah. See, now that song is by Muse and was not written for Twilight. I think they then went on to write a song for Twilight. But I was just reading an interview in my copious research for this podcast that says that Muse didn't even like Twilight, which I thought that's a little poor, because I think they have 3 songs in the 5 Twilight soundtracks. I'm like, come on, you can't be taking all their money.
Which ones did they write for Twilight?
I think there's a song called like it's called like Neutron Star Collision, Love Is Forever. But then I was looking through the Twilight soundtrack playlist on Spotify and I couldn't see it. But I'm pretty sure it was specifically written for Twilight because it's not an album. I used to be a kind of big Muse fan and I'm a little bit embarrassed of that now. But this song was like written, it wasn't on an album, and I thought it was like specifically written for Twilight. There is definitely a song called I Belong to You by Muse, which is on one of the Twilights, because I did see that in my
How's that
research.
go?
It's like a sort of piano ballad. I don't know, it's not that good, I don't think. It's certainly no Supermassive Black Hole.
Supermassive black hole nova.
No, you've gone too far.
Super big awesome black hole nova.
No.
Is there any nova?
No.
Oh, really?
You're thinking of supernova.
Yeah.
Which is something else.
Yeah, that's when the sun explodes.
Yeah. Or when the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four really powers up, he goes supernova and he burns his clothes off and it's embarrassing work.
That's very silly.
Yeah. I didn't finish my loop on My Chemical Romance. After they refused to write a song for Twilight, then on their last album, Danger Days, they wrote a song called Vampire Money, and they basically just were saying like, we're not fucking doing a song for Twilight, alright? They're basically talking about how they could take the vampire money by doing a song for Twilight, but they're not going to do it. The song's pretty good.
I thought they did make a song for Twilight.
My Chemical Romance didn't.
Oh.
Muse did. good.
Oh,
I think.
now I don't like My Chemical Romance.
Well, one of the best bands of the mid-2000s.
All right, well, we've gone from Dracula all the way to 50 Shades of Grey and now My Chemical Romance. So where are we going next?
I think we're now going to
Twilight.
The movie, not the book, unfortunately.
Well, I can provide the book knowledge.
Yeah, I've actually read the first, I think, chapter of the book, and I thought
here we go.
It wasn't great, to be honest.
Well,
surprise.
I haven't read it since I was probably 13, so maybe my book knowledge isn't so good. Okay, well, let's get started. We're gonna go through. Euan took copious notes when we watched Twilight, but now that was about 2 months ago.
I think it was actually almost 3 months ago.
3 months ago.
The idea is to see if Sarah can work out what my notes are. This is going to be quite insightful into Euan's note-taking sort of style, which I have commented, even in my professional life, is maybe quite confusing to anyone who isn't me, but maybe it's sort of quite insightful to the workings of my brain. So here it is, Twilight note page. I've got Twilight as the title here. First note, opening line of movie is cringe. Now, Sarah, what is the opening line of the movie?
I've never given much thought to how I would die, but dying in the place of someone I love seems like a good way to go.
Yeah.
Something like that. The first sentence is exactly right.
Now, that would tie into the rest, because she would be dying instead of who within this? Is it Charlie?
This is taken directly from the book, and it's like a prologue. And it's her when she thinks that the vampire James has her mother captive in Arizona because he plays the thing on the phone where her mom is like, Bella, Bella. And then James is like, come and get your mommy.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't say that.
It's interesting because just my initial thoughts on Bella's mom is that she sucks. She's awful. So I wouldn't be... I think Bella, she's got her problems, but that would not be a good trade.
She was always referred to as Bella's harebrained mother.
Really?
So I think she's just aloof. And
Yeah.
Bella just kind of knows that about her and is a good daughter, so...
Yeah. So my next note is Bella is the palest girl in Arizona.
Yes, that is how she's described in the books as well.
Like verbatim like that?
Basically, because everyone's like, why are you so pale? You're from Arizona. That's like a
Okay.
running thing.
It doesn't really seem like possible how she could be that pale.
Just in her jeans.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe she wears a lot of sunscreen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, or maybe just never goes outside. She is quite shut in. I think she's got those kind of vibes.
Yeah.
Maybe
Or she was born to be a vampire.
I've got the color grading in Washington is like the opposite of what normally people do in scenes shot in Latin America, where everything's like really yellow to the point it's like you're on some sort of desert planet. It's like Tatooine in Latin America in Hollywood movies. But Washington is like really blue. It's bizarre.
It's cool graded.
Yeah, but it makes it kind of look, like I said, in Latin America, in movies, makes it look like it's not like a place on Earth. It's the same with Washington. It's like, where is this weird place where Bella is... She's not just a white person, she's literally the color white. It's very strange.
Yeah, I do agree. But I also feel like now that the movie has aged, it gives it a kind of... Because it's kind of become, like a cult classic in some ways. Yeah. And it gives it that, like, different vibe where it's, like, kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically the premise is Bella has left Arizona because her mum picks up with some baseball player and says, "You're moving in with your dad, Charlie, in Washington Forks."
Was that supposed to be like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yeah. But
you have to do it in the high-pitched voice then?
No, I don't think I've got that in me at the moment. Unfortunately. Sorry, listeners. So she then packs up and she's straight to Washington. Now, upon her arrival at Washington, what I've written down is the people at school are bizarrely weird. Eric especially with his speech and mannerisms. Now, I can't actually remember who Eric is. Which one's Eric? Is he the guy who says "Ciao, Bella"?
He's the one who says it's la push.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of like nerdy. He ends up with Jessica.
Is he the one who tried?
No. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Mike ends up with Jessica. He ends up with Angela.
And Mike is like into Bella.
Yeah.
At first.
But Jessica's into Mike and Bella isn't into Mike.
Yeah. Really, it's kind of miraculous Bella even makes friends. She makes like no effort to really talk to anyone, and she's kind of just like lands in the lap of people who seem to be, I mean, they are weird, but they are like nice. Anna Kendrick seems pretty nice.
Yeah.
What's her character name?
Jessica.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is true to the books in that Bella is always like, I don't know why anyone likes me. I'm so boring and just dull. And she is. Mm-hmm. But then she's like, and somehow all these people
rude. She's real rude.
She's not rude.
But she doesn't make any effort to like talk to people. And if anything, I haven't had to like transfer school at some point, but I know that's would be a very difficult, experience for people, especially ones who are not, extremely socially inclined, and you could get really unlucky and go to school with really established cliques like in Mean Girls, and then you could be in a world of pain. But these kind of just good-natured people are like, coming into our friend group, Bella, no bother. And then Bella's like, ugh. These people trying to be nice to me, so annoying. She doesn't say that. That's her sort of vibe, though, isn't it?
I think she just is an introvert and doesn't always want to be.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've got sympathy for introverts. Sometimes I'm an introvert, but, not sympathy for that introvert. She's given all introverts a bad name, I think. So my next note is just slow-mo vampires. What does that mean, Sarah?
Are we already to that part?
Yeah. Presumably, if I've not written anything down, it means the rest of the movie was solid gold until we got that part, so...
Oh, no. Okay, this is when the Cullens first arrive at the school, I think. Mm-hmm. There's a few slow-mo vampire parts, though. But I think based on where we are in your notes, it's when the Cullens sort of arrive in their respective couples while Jessica is describing who they are. And then Edward comes in last, and then he
does this weird sit-down thing where he very delicately places 2 fingers on each hand on this table, and then sort of scoots his little tush onto the chair.
It's very funny.
I wonder what was going through Robert Pattinson's mind. Do you think he was like subconsciously mocking the movie at that point, or he was just like, maybe the director was like, look, Edward, we have to portray you as Edward Pattinson. We need to portray you as a sort of misunderstood and zany character. So have you ever thought about not sitting down like a normal person, but sitting down like a vampire, where you put 2 fingers on the table
No,
first?
I think that's all
improvised. Yeah. Next note I've got is Edward soils himself when he sees her and blatantly stares at her.
Yeah, so that'll be in when Bella first comes into the biology class, and Edward sees her, and he puts his hand over his nose and his mouth, which if you haven't read the book and you're Euan, you would not understand at all why he looks like he's just soiled himself. But it's because the fan blows her scent toward him, and her scent is like the most delicious smelling thing he's ever smelt, and he just immediately wants to rip her to pieces. So that's why he soils himself. And
of course, this is a struggle that Edward has, because as we learn, he's a vegetarian vampire.
Yeah. He's
only out for animal blood.
Yeah. No humans allowed.
My next note just says Bella's mum is very selfish. So I got into that earlier. Yeah. I actually went off script there earlier to just slag off Bella's mum. I don't know what sort of scene happens. Maybe she has a phone call with her mum.
Yeah, she has a call with her, and then her mom's talking about how the spring training is going and stuff. Which I was confused by, because I thought Bella moved out because they had to move around. But spring training happens in Arizona, and they live in Arizona. So I don't understand why.
Maybe she just wanted her out of the house.
Yeah.
I'm sick of you, Bella, and how pale you are. You're blinding me every time I come downstairs. You step out in this Arizona heat, and it's like, you know how when you go skiing you have to wear sunglasses?
Yeah.
That's what everyone experiences when they look at Bella. I've then got dialogue is skin crawling. I don't really know what particular line that might be in reference to. I just assume all of them on some level. But here's actually what I think is a good observation. The speech patterns and pauses are quite anime-esque, I think. Now, I think it's more like the kind of thing. That's like an anime noise, by the way.
Okay.
Where it's a lot of very audible grunting is the best way to put it, and just the rhythm of when people are talking. It reminds me of kind of English dubs of anime, which I'm not gonna lie, that isn't a good thing, because often English dubs of anime is terrible. But I don't know if you're enough of an anime fan.
No,
not that I really am
not
either, but
I do know. I think I know what line you were referring to, because I remember when you wrote that note down. I think it's when Edward comes up to talk to Bella to try to explain how he stopped the car from hitting her, and then Bella's like, your eyes, they were black the last time I saw you, and now they're like golden. And then R.Pats says, it's the fluorescence, and then just walks away. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well that does sound like it checks out with my my analysis there. I think this might happen immediately afterwards. I guess just sort of breaking down the idea that Twilight, you were into Twilight, Sarah, and you probably were like, oh, Edward, he's so dreamy. Oh, R.Pats, he's so dreamy.
No.
I like Edward so much. I wish my boyfriend was Edward.
No.
Well, who knows? So Edward immediately gaslights Bella, which I've then written, good start to any romance, and then he immediately then threatens her that no one's going to believe her.
Yeah. Yeah. No, most people were Team Jacob. Very few people were Team Edward. I was maybe kind of Team Edward, but I also was kind of... At first, I was into Twilight, but then people started pitting it against Harry Potter, and so then it became...
Then it became personal.
Yeah. So then I was a Twilight, like, hater for a while, but as Robert Pattinson says... It's not 2008. It's no longer cool to hate Twilight, which we'll come to later.
Okay, interesting. Then probably my favorite note that I've written is out of focus Mike I like.
Yes. Euan didn't know what this note was referring to, but I can totally picture the scene. It's where Bella's looking across the parking lot at Edward. And so the camera follows her. It's a POV shot where she looks across the parking lot, and then the camera shows what she sees, which is Edward on the other side of the parking lot. And then you just see a head come in, like in the foreground. And he's like, hey, Bella. And he kind of like sticks his head like literally into the camera's view. And then it like refocuses onto him because it's supposed to be her like abruptly like having to not wanting to look at Mike but being forced to.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff in this, you know, some of it is enjoyable, but in a way that it's kind of, you know, cringy, or it's kind of
funny.
Not very good, yeah, that is like genuinely like good filmmaking.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually like very funny. So props to the creative team for that. Oh, here's my next note is Bella remarkably fortunate to make friends without trying or even being nice to people. We kind of already discussed that. The next one, just another classic bit of Edward goodness where he says, you should stay away from me. And then I've written, Edward exclusively comes onto her. It's never the other way around.
Yeah. Well.
He doesn't know what he wants, I suppose. He's
Yeah.
a troubled little guy.
She comes on to him as well.
I think he's always the one that's kind of coming up to him and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Coming up to her.
She's always just kind of creepily looking at him from a distance.
Yeah, giving him those flirty eyes.
Yeah.
That kind of slack-jawed expression that she does.
Yeah.
Edward scares 5 drunks away by just glaring at them. He doesn't even say anything, which I thought was just maybe a bit unrealistic.
It's his vampire intimidation.
Is that like one of his like vampire superpowers?
Well, that's just like all the vampires, when they get like the like look in their eye,
Yeah.
then it scares people.
I just thought because they're like drunk, then maybe they wouldn't. Well, I'm not sure if we actually know they're drunk. I assume they are, and that's why I wrote that down.
Yeah,
but
kind of drunk.
yeah, I just thought he could have said something kind of like, "You better run" or something.
You think that would be better?
No. I think it would be funny. It would be another funny thing to laugh at. So Edward's like vampire power is that he's really fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
well, no, that's not his vampire. His vampire power is that he reads minds. All vampires are fast.
But he can't read Bella's mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Edward is particularly fast.
Okay.
That's just, I think he was probably a
ones...
faster human.
Like me. Yeah, so I've written, speedy legs running is the worst effect ever.
But it's like, it's not even speedy. They don't even do speedy legs. They have them like running.
He's kind of like the Roadrunner.
Speed, but then they have them like shoot up a.
He should have gone beep beep.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. Someone should like dub that in every time the speedy legs happens in Twilight. Do a beep beep like the Roadrunner. Okay, now this is probably the most like memeable part of the movie, I think, where Edward, this is where I think he sort of comes out to her as a vampire. And then they're in this sort of like grove in the Washington forest, wherever it is. Edward's thing is that, you know, he can't stay in daylight because unlike in other vampire lore where vampires can't be directly in sunlight because it burns them, or that it can actually just kill them outright, I think, in some mediums. This is what happens in Twilight. So Edward turns to Bella and he says, "Look at me, Bella, this is the skin of a killer," while he's sparkling. So I just wrote, "This is the skin of a killer, sparkles." Sparkles away. I'm hideous, Bella. Look at my sparkles.
Well, it's after she says, because he just kind of walks into the sun and takes like his shirt off and is like looking up into the sun, all like moody. And Bella's like, "You're beautiful," and he's like, "Beautiful. This is the skin of a killer."
Is it in the books that he like sparkles? Is that a thing? Or is it
Yeah, I mean,
some
it
sort
doesn't
of other...
say he sparkles. It's described a little bit better than that.
Well, how is it described?
I don't know.
Like the light makes his skin
The light,
look
like his
strange?
skin like refracts the light in like
Right.
different directions.
The sparkling is like
Like
it's
a diamond.
It's so stupid. Like it looks so silly. It's like really hard to take it seriously, I think, from that point on. Not that, you know, earlier it was also hard to take it seriously.
Whatever.
But then I wrote, I need to jump into this tree now. Like, I think he's talking to her, and then he just like jumps up into the tree.
He's showing her that he's this is when he's like, as if you could outrun me, and then he like, is that when he jumps in the tree?
He whooshes back and forth, I think.
Yeah.
Or outjump me.
No,
Whoosh.
and then he breaks off a piece of the tree, and then he's like, as if you could fight me off. Yeah. But then she's like, you won't hurt me.
Yeah. And then I think after that they have their very first kiss, which, you know, all those Twilight heads would be so excited for. And then the camera just pans up. It's very strange, I thought.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
Because I think, like, you know, the Teen Choice Awards or whatever, they always have those, you know, nominations for best kiss in a movie and stuff like that. So I just thought...
Speaking of Teen Choice, wasn't there a Teen Choice Award where, like, Robert Pattinson just, like, kisses Taylor Lautner or something like that? Like, when Twilight was all the rage?
I have no idea. I was only a little 5-year-old boy then. So.
All right. Well, I'm spreading that rumor. I think that happened.
Okay. So Sarah looked it up. She was like, Euan, I have to show you this. We stopped the recording and she showed me a video of Robert Pattinson indeed leaving the stage at the Teen Choice Awards, running into the crowd and embracing Taylor Lautner with his mouth.
Yes. I don't know where my brain, I just pulled that out of my brain somewhere.
Yeah. You probably had a picture of that on your wall of obsessions.
Please. I think actually maybe Taylor Lautner and Robert Pattinson were both on my walls at some point.
Yeah. Taylor Lautner really doesn't look very good with his long hair, I think, in this.
Well, it's just a wig.
Exactly.
He cuts it in Eclipse.
Yeah. He is like a good looking man. It's just, I feel like the hair... They could have made him have long hair and it still looks better. But I actually think he's maybe not even, like, maybe he's only just turned 18 or something in this one. So I think he's quite young. So maybe I'll reserve my full judgments over his attractiveness because I don't want to go on any registers. So I feel like we're missing quite a lot of plot from my notes. So
no, that's good. It's all good. People have seen Twilight.
Yeah,
they know
that's
what's
true.
happening.
That's true. I've got Bella too brutal to Charlie, like Lisa on Ralph Wiggum.
Okay, well, I don't know what that last part means.
So
it's Simpsons.
Yeah, there's a bit in The Simpsons where Lisa, I think there's some sort of like Valentine's Day episode happening, and Lisa feels bad for Ralph, and Ralph's the kid in their class. He's Chief Wiggum, he's the guy who kind of looks like a pig, the police officer. His son Ralph is like stupid, right? He's not got a lot going on, and Lisa's of course very intelligent, probably the most intelligent character in the whole show, despite being 8. Lisa gives Ralph a card out of sympathy, and then Ralph misinterprets this as Lisa being into him and wanting to like go out with him, and then I think she agrees to go with him on a date. Basically, again, like out of sympathy, or just like go with him to something. And then she basically, there's something happens where they're on camera, and Lisa gets so annoyed with Ralph, she like publicly rejects him in front of the camera. And then it cuts, and Bart is then watching this bit on TV, and then he's like, look, Lisa, you can even see the part where his heart rips into. And then he goes like frame by frame, and you see Ralph put his like hands to his chest, and then goes like, oh.
Yeah.
For our audio listeners, which is everyone, I just did a perfect reenactment of it while I made that noise. So, but that's what it reminded me of when Bella. I think she is trying to convince Charlie that she hates him, so he won't go after her, which is why she is as brutal. But I feel like she could have been brutal without saying some of the things she did, you know?
Yeah.
And Charlie's the only character anyone has any sympathy for, so...
Well, yeah. No, that part is really sad. Poor Charlie.
He's got the best mustache on the whole west coast of America.
It's possible.
Best mustache since Burt Reynolds.
Who's that?
Some like action movie star from the 70s, I think. So I didn't like Bella doing that, but it did, because it made me feel bad. I can imagine it made Charlie feel real bad. So then I've just written piano theme good. I think there's like a little sort of instrumental piano theme that kind of plays throughout the movie at different points, and I like that. I thought
Bella's
it was good.
lullaby.
Yeah, maybe it's almost as good as Zelda's lullaby. Then there's a funny bit where Jasper, who's one of Edward's brothers, right? He's just like really happy when they're building a fire to kill James. He's just like really excited. And I thought
Well,
that was
they're
funny.
like, yeah. I think they get into a bit of a frenzy, and they're kind of like dancing around the big bonfire.
Yeah, it's like Lord
they're
of the
building.
Flies.
Yeah, and throwing the wood onto the fire, getting ready to burn his decapitated head and body.
Yeah. I feel like it reminded me of like the Joker or something, where he's just like completely carried away and aloof. Like,
Yeah. Well, that part always gave me nightmares when Alice rips off James's head and throws it in the fire.
I have to say, probably there's part of the Twilight franchise that I like the most. It's just the weird kind of kills and stuff.
The heads coming off.
Yeah, it's weird that they kind of like pop off like a Lego head, but
Ugh.
I prefer some sort of like spine to come out, connected to the head. That would look awesome.
No. No.
And then my final note, Sarah, that I've got here on my notes page is Twilight themed piano riff is good. So it's just the same note as the previous one. I think I'd forgotten I'd written it down, even though I'd written it down probably about 5 minutes earlier. So that shows how invested I must have been in the movie at that point.
I think there might be multiple piano themes.
Okay, well, if you're playing a piano when it comes on in Twilight, just know that I probably like it.
It's Edward playing all those.
Is it really? Oh, what a dreamy guy.
He wrote Bella's Lullaby.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or is it called Bella Luna? I think it's Bella's Lullaby.
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 Okay, well, those are all my notes. It was a pretty, I guess, skittish retelling of the story from things that I wanted to comment on. But, maybe in the future when we're wildly successful podcast hosts, we'll do like a commentary that can go along with the movies.
Yeah.
And we just are annotating the whole movie.
That's a good
and you'll
idea.
hear more brilliant insight like what I've just said.
Yeah. Okay, well, now that we have had a brilliant retelling of Twilight from Euan's notes, we are going to move on to trivia.
Oh my god, it's happening again.
The scenes, factoids for your enjoyment. Now, was fairly well known at the time that the Twilight cast, they didn't always get along. They had kind of a lot of drama, but they were sort of teenagers-ish, late teens, all thrown onto a movie set together for long, long periods of time, so it was unavoidable, really. For example, I think that there were times when Ashley Greene, who plays Alice, and Nikki Reed, who plays Rosalie, apparently they didn't get along sometimes, and it sounds like at first maybe everyone was kind of friends, but then as the films got more popular, there seemed to be more of a divide between the sort of main characters and the lesser characters.
Civil War, Twilight Civil War.
And Anna Kendrick in some interviews said that she likened Twilight to being held in like a hostage situation.
Wow.
She said that mostly she complained about the weather being bad and like her like the rain always soaking through her shoes, and she said that she was just miserable, and so she like wanted to murder everyone on set is what she said. And then she said that it was a bonding experience because it was a shared trauma, which I think was a joke, but little extreme.
These actors haven't worked an honest day of work in their whole lives.
So Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, as probably you already know, dated throughout Twilight.
Even if you didn't know that, you could probably just assume it from their on-screen chemistry must have transferred into real life.
They do have on-screen chemistry, because they're in the weird way.
Yeah.
I think they do. But I think after filming the part 2 of Breaking Dawn, but before it was released, is that when the affair came out?
I think so. It was with the director for Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah, so Kristen Stewart was filming Snow White and the Huntsman with director Rupert Sanders. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Who was the director of Snow White. And so they were having a love affair, which ruined his marriage and ruined her relationship with R.Pats.
Yeah. I have to say, if you were to just like throw like darts at a board and the things were like Robert Pattinson, Kristen Stewart relationship and then breakup due to affair, I feel like her having an affair with like like 25-year-old, like year older film director who's married. That would not be a very likely thing, I think.
Yeah.
Now, R.Pats, he's a handsome guy. I don't think you would have expected to ever be cheated on. You know?
Yeah. Well, even he who must not be named, whose initials are DT, tweeted that at the time that Robert Pattinson deserved better or something like that.
I have to say, those were from a different era of that man's, Twitter usage, and looking back on them, it does make you wonder, or sort of make me nostalgic for a different time in the world.
Mm-hmm. More fun trivia. We're moving on to Stephenie Meyer, author of the Twilight books. She has a cameo in the movie, which I pointed out to Euan.
Yeah, she's actually writing in a cafe or something.
Yeah,
right?
she's sitting at the tabletop. What do you call that? Like the bar, but at a diner.
Yeah, the
counter.
Yeah, the shelf, the waiting shelf.
And it kind of pans past her and then to Bella and Charlie.
Has Stephenie Meyer really written anything apart from Twilight?
Yeah. I think she wrote Host, which actually became a film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
I read that, I think, but I don't really remember it at all.
Yeah. No, the name sounds familiar, so...
Yeah, it was about, aliens using people as hosts.
Oh.
But, you couldn't tell they were aliens. They just looked like people, but then their eyes were a different color or something like that.
Whoa.
That's what I remember, at least. Another Stephenie Meyer trivia. So how we came to have Twilight, I guess partially from 9/11. And
mostly.
But the idea of Twilight came to Stephenie Meyer in a dream, which for any Twihards, this is very common knowledge. But for you non-Twihards, like Euan.
I like Twihard. I've never heard that before. Did you come up with that?
No.
Oh.
That's what they're called.
Twihard with a twangens.
Yeah. So Stephenie Meyer had this dream of, it's the meadow scene. In the movie, it's just part of kind of a
dream.
No.
Montage.
Montage, thank you. And Bella and Edward are just lying in the meadow staring at each other. The sun is coming down on Edward, so he's sparkling, and it's like music, and it's kind of just panning around, and they're staring at each other. So Stephenie Meyer had this dream that she was laying in a meadow with a vampire who was thirsting for her blood, but also in love with her. Wow.
It's genius.
And that became Twilight.
Tell you what. The other famous example of something coming to someone in a dream like that is the song Hey Jude by Paul McCartney, or by the Beatles, but written by Paul McCartney. Because in Beatles fan lore, any interview, he always just talks about how it came to him in a dream. It's like a meme within the Beatles community, because he always brings that up in interviews.
There you go. I don't think I've had any of my genius ideas from dreams.
No. I become very concerned after learning about your dreams, Sarah.
Our final piece of trivia will lead into a montage that I will call R.Pats Hates Twilight. It's not a very good name. R.Pats versus Edward.
He's no Twihard.
He's no Twihard. So, Robert Pattinson was kind of notoriously not a fan of Twilight. Now, I have come up with various quotes that Robert Pattinson has said throughout his career while talking about Twilight. Are you ready, Euan?
I'm ready.
First off, he called the books uncomfortable to read. He said, "When I read it, I was convinced Stephenie was convinced she was Bella, and it was like it was a book that wasn't supposed to be published. It was like reading her sexual fantasy, especially when she said it was based on a dream. Like, some things about Edward are so specific. I was just convinced, this woman is mad. She's completely mad, and she's in love with her own fictional creation. And sometimes you would feel uncomfortable reading this thing."
When did he say this? I feel like it's grounds to be fired if he was saying it during the movie making process.
I know, yeah, it's almost slander, isn't it? But I feel like that also became kind of part of the lore of Twilight. Yeah. In some ways.
Was that known during the movies coming out that he didn't like Twilight?
Well, I think it was on press tours that he started saying these
maybe
things.
For the last ones. And he was like, I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm free to do weird indie movies for 10 years, and I'll be Batman.
All right. The quotes continue. "You always get weirdos like Edward who seem to attract women for some reason."
That's true, by the way. I totally agree with that.
"If Edward wasn't a fictional character and you met him in reality, he is like one of those guys who would probably be an axe murderer or something."
I agree. Hard agree.
Well, and Robert Pattinson he also hates the character of Edward, but I feel like that kind of fits because Edward kind of hates himself, so it works. All right, next R.Pats quote. There's a lot of stuff in the Twilight world that doesn't make sense. It's like, why are they still going to high school? Like, up until last year, they're 100 years old.
That is stupid as well. I have to agree. Like, it doesn't really... Like, I know it's so they don't blow their cover, but surely it's just them being all weird around other school children. Isn't that more suspicious than just
being homeschooled?
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, that's the most suspicious thing of anything. But isn't it more suspicious? Like, they could easily pass as like mid-20s-year-olds. They could just be like stay-at-home kids who are not doing anything with their lives, you know?
Yeah.
Their dad's rich. He's a rich doctor. He has a very strange look to him. He's very blonde, like Draco Malfoy. And he just, they don't need to work.
But then he'd never meet Bella.
Yeah, but that's convenience for the plot's sake.
Maybe Carlisle has them go to high school. It's like a test. He's like, you guys got to stay vegetarian even surrounded by all these children.
Yeah, in fact, that seems like it's just a complete disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think that they want to still be part of society.
Do they? But they just keep it to themselves.
But they don't. Well, Carlisle wants them to be part of society.
If one of Carlisle's family members like ripped someone to shreds, what do you think he would do? Would he kill them?
His family member?
Yeah.
No.
What would he do? You're no
well,
son of mine.
I think Jasper might accidentally do that once. He doesn't like kill him. He's just disappointed. Disappointed father of a bunch of 100-year-olds.
And Carlisle's motive is that he only turns people who are about to die anyway. Mm-hmm. But arguably being a vampire is a fate worse than death.
Yeah.
Become a monster.
They don't really have a choice in the matter.
Exactly.
All right. There are more R.Pats quotes, people. We are still in R.Pats hates Twilight. I can't really understand it even now. It does have an angle which is attached to something quite primal in girls. I guess people want it to define them. Like, I'm a Twilight fan. That's crazy to me. I think people really just like being part of a crowd.
Yeah, boys aren't like that.
Come on. That is a pretty judgy, scathing thing to say about people who made you famous.
He was already famous from Harry Potter.
Well, to me, he was my first crush. That quote was from 2011.
So that was while they were still coming out, I think. Or did Breaking Dawn Part 2? I feel like they came out around 2011.
2012, yeah. So and these quotes should be in chronological order, so those first ones would have been earlier.
It's interesting because I feel like him saying stuff like that, like nowadays, I feel like the studio execs would be going, you could jeopardize us making like millions of dollars by turning our fans against, you're going to get cancelled by the Twilight fans, Robert.
Yeah.
And then no one's going to go see the movie, and then we're going to lose loads of money. So you can't say stuff like that.
Where's his PR training? Yeah. All right, so the next quote is it must be after Breaking Dawn Part 2, or is in 2017, but he's referring to Breaking Dawn Part 2 when Bella is giving birth, or Part 1 maybe. And he says, how did you say that?
Cesarean.
It's it's nuts. I had to give her a cesarean by chewing through a placenta. I don't know the medical how it works, but there was definitely chewing through something. No, it's wild. Once you got it in your head, you're like, oh, this is just the thing for little girls. And then, it's difficult to get past.
I agree. I don't even remember that part, but that sounds horrible, so...
Yeah, I mean, Breaking Dawn is the most mature, for sure, of the books. Because that's when the sex and stuff starts as well.
Yeah.
This is probably my favorite quote. In 2018... Pattinson said that he stopped mentally progressing around the time when he started doing those movies. Whenever anyone says, this is him still being quoted. Whenever anyone says Twilight's their guilty pleasure, it's like, you say guilty, what you really mean is just pleasure.
Yeah. I do think the idea of guilty pleasure, I feel like it's kind of sad that people have to say it's like a guilty pleasure. Like, you should be more unabashed in things like that. It's like, I never used to say Taylor Swift is a guilty pleasure of mine.
Now do you?
No, maybe she's just nothing to me anymore.
Damn.
What I was going to say about that previous quote also is that I also felt like I stopped mentally progressing as soon as I started watching Twilight.
Stop. But you have to follow R.Pats' journey because it's not over yet. Now we're into 2019, and now he says, "It's lovely now that the mania is not so intense. People come up to me and just have very fond memories of it. It's a really sweet thing. I think the only scary part was right in the thick of it all when it was very, very intense. Now the intensity has died down and it's just very warm memories." Aww.
Yeah, well, maybe he started mentally progressing again.
Maybe he emotionally matured.
Yeah.
Okay, but now we regress a little bit. Now he summed up the entire franchise by saying, "Twilight is about this guy, and he finds the one girl he wants to be with and also wants to eat her. I mean, not eat her, but drink her blood or whatever."
That's a pretty succinct summary, I think.
And then in 2020... It's a weird story, Twilight. It's not just like, it's strange how people responded a lot to it. I guess the books are very romantic, but at the same time, it's not like the Notebook romantic.
Yeah, agreed.
But now we get to the final stage of grief, acceptance.
R.Pats' last word.
His last word. So while doing press for The Batman, he said he's changed his mind. And he doesn't, in fact, hate Twilight at all. He says, "It's not even cool to be a hater anymore. That's so 2010.
Wow. Well said, R.Pats.
There you go.
It is interesting that he did kind of, after Twilight, kind of go away and didn't really do anything mainstream for a while. And he's been sort of building up his sort of film credibility for a long time, doing kind of like indie movies and lower budget stuff. And now he's fully back in the mainstream as Batman, and I really liked the Batman movie he did, so I thought he was good in the role.
Yeah.
Very emo Batman, probably the most emo Batman we've ever seen in live action anyway, but yeah, I liked it.
Not my favorite Batman, but I still love R.Pats.
Well, it's not my favorite Batman, I didn't say that. R.Pats.
R.Pats
He's
playing
R.Pats. Yeah, very good.
But there you have it. R.Pats hated Twilight.
Yeah, I think on some level, the Twilight movie, it's a fun time, you know? I don't know if that's what they were intending when making it. They weren't like, we want to make something that is kind of going into sort of so bad it's good kind of territory. Because, you know, in many ways, Twilight, I'd rather watch Twilight than Requiem for a Dream again. Now, Requiem for a Dream is a much better movie from like an objective standpoint, in my opinion.
Oh, it can't both be objective and your opinion.
Okay.
Which is it?
Is it from an objective standpoint?
No, it's your opinion.
Okay, in a subjective perspective, shared by many, in my opinion, I would suggest.
How many ways can you say that same thing?
Do you want to, is that the test? Should we do that?
No, keep going.
But because that movie isn't really enjoyable to me, while it is a very sort of powerful piece of filmmaking, and if you can handle sort of hard to watch things, I would recommend watching it. I would sooner probably rather watch Twilight again, because as much as some of the performances are a bit ropey, the script isn't great at times, and some of the effects are very strange, it is very fun to watch, especially with a big twihard like Sarah with you, who can... Well, you do just kind of go both ways, Sarah, because sometimes when I say something which just sort of scratches beneath the skin a little bit too much, your claws do kind of come out a little bit, your vampire claws and your vampire teeth, and you sort of snarl and you're like, don't be mean to Twilight.
Well, it's because you don't have any nostalgia attached to Twilight.
That's true.
So I can be mean to it because I have a connection with it.
The thing is, Sarah, the word nostalgia in Latin, you know what it means? Painful memories. So do you have painful memories associated with Twilight?
That's not the way we use it.
Is it a little bit of shame?
No, because I was a bit of a hater. But like R.Pats, I matured. No, but I don't think that it was intended to be what it has become. I think it was maybe intended to be more of a serious adaptation, which is how Twihards viewed it at the time. But now,
I get over Twilight. I very much like that. I don't know how that hasn't come up in our previous discussions about Twilight.
But now, watching it back, like, it is funny, and it's a vibe, and it's weird, and not always good, but that's what makes it funny. But it's not like bad. I don't know how to explain it. It's a cult classic now.
Yeah.
I'm making it a cult classic.
I would say, like, it's definitely in sort of similar to territories of, like, The Room, or maybe even to some people, like, the Star Wars prequels, where it's kind of like, Attack of the Clones is, like, a fun time. But, I mean, the script is terrible at times. Like, the dialogue is awful, but, like, that's scenes that are meant to be really serious or funny because the dialogue is so bad. But that doesn't mean you don't like watching it.
Yeah, I love Twilight, I think.
Yeah, well, you do love Twilight.
I do. Okay, now we're going to go into a section you have been missing for a while, but we had to do it for this one, and you'll find out why in a moment.
I don't even know why we're doing it. I don't even know why it's brought back, so...
We are doing Better as a Musical.
Woo!
So...
From the grave, it's back.
Just yes or no. Don't give me any details. Do you think Twilight would be better as a musical?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, two things. I don't know if I should even tell them this or tell you this. When I was a freshman in college, okay, I quite like a group called Star Kid, which did a Harry Potter musical. So they like to do parody musicals of very famous IP franchises.
And some originals now, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of where they were at this time. And so I was thinking, why have they never done one for Twilight? So I was sitting in my dorm room and I started writing a Twilight musical. Wow. And I wrote the first song to it and the first few scenes of a script.
Did you write your first refrain, a testament to your name?
Yeah, I did. And the first song was called Arizona.
Not the whitest girl in Arizona?
No. That would be good, though. But this song wasn't there were some jokes in it, but it was just basically about kind of how her mom is crappy.
Wow.
And how she's making her move to Forks with her dad, who is awkward and she hates. Well, she doesn't hate him. Yeah. Okay, for example, one thing in it is that this ruins part of my trivia later, my questions for you, but whatever. In the first scene, when Bella's coming back from the airport with her dad, Charlie, she's holding a cactus for some reason. She had to hold this cactus that she held and brought all the way from Arizona, which is just ridiculous. So then in my musical, she was going to be holding like a giant cactus, the size of a person, which is just kind of stupid. But yeah, while she's singing this song about Arizona.
That's good, yeah.
I still remember how it goes, but I'm not going to sing it for you. But sadly for me, someone recently now has already written a Twilight parody musical that I've been seeing clips of on TikTok. So
did it seem funny? Probably not as good as yours.
Not as good as mine.
I mean, I don't think, because it's a parody, I don't think they can exclusively be we have done the Twilight musical, You could still do yours, and then they could fight it out.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't be as unique of a thing,
Well, if the Twilight parody musical that is currently, I guess, touring somewhere or just doing something, if in that Bella's ever holding a giant cactus, we're going to sue you for every penny. The Popcorn and Cumin legal team, which is me, is going to come with the Popcorn and Cumin creative team, which is Sarah, and sue you for all your worth and more.
This does also remind me, though, of a parody movie came out about Twilight called Vampires Suck.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
No.
Oh. Well, it's do they have a giant cactus? That would be bad. I hope not. But for example, there's I think you would like this part. The scene where Charlie and Jacob's dad, Billy, I think his name's Billy.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably.
They're both talking to Jacob and Bella, but then Jacob and Bella need to talk alone. So then Charlie and Billy just start rough playing with each other in the street. Do you remember that?
No.
They're just and then they're kind of punching each other.
Actually in the movie? Oh, I don't remember that at all. I thought that was going to be the parody.
No, so then in the parody, then they start actually just beating the shit out of each other. Yeah.
Wow.
I thought you might like that part. That's basically all I remember from the parody, though. But I think I owned it on DVD.
There's nothing wrong with a bit of male on male horseplay, At any age, I think.
I guess.
Just a bit of rough and tumble.
Well, yeah. That's all we need to do, I think, for Better as a Musical.
Okay.
It would be, is the answer.
I said it would be, and clearly we were kindred spirits in that sense. I think you might have actually told me that before, many years ago, but...
Really?
Maybe you might have mentioned it, but I didn't know the full extent of it. I didn't know you'd sat up in your room writing, scribbling on paper, and then curling it up into a little paper ball and throwing it into the trash can saying, this isn't right, this isn't right.
Okay, we have reached the final segment. So many segments. This segment is Euan's pop quiz.
Pop quiz and Cumin.
Pop quiz and Cumin. Are you ready, Euan?
I'm so ready. Now this is where my reputation as a twihard is gonna be exponentially increased when I get every single one of these correct. Is it multiple choice?
No.
Oh no. I'm ready to become a twihard. This is my initiation ceremony.
All right, here's a test of your memory from 2 minutes ago. What is Bella holding on the car ride home?
Cactus.
Yes, correct. What is Charlie's profession?
He's a policeman.
Yeah? These are the easy ones.
Oh.
Finish this quote. All right, I'm going to be first Bella.
Okay.
So, Bella, how old are you? Edward, 17. Bella.
17 years old? Question mark?
No. This is a classic Twilight quote.
She says, "You look beautiful, Edward."
No. She says, how long have you been 17?
I don't remember that.
Oh my goodness. This is classic. All right. Name the couples in the Cullen family.
Jasper and Lizzie.
No. What?
Emmett and Chris.
What?
Alice. One of them's Alice, right?
Uh-huh.
Alice and Jasper.
Yeah.
Emmett and Jamet.
Emmett and Jamet. No. Starts with an R.
Rosalie.
Yeah.
And Emmett.
Uh-huh. And then?
Oh yeah, there's Edward and Bella.
Yeah. And?
The blonde guy. I've forgotten his name now. I'll get it.
He was my favorite vampire.
Cremit?
It starts with C. They don't all have to rhyme with Emmett.
They barely did. C.
Played by Peter Fasinelli.
Carlisle. Like in Cumbria.
And?
I don't think
baby is named after.
Oh, Renesmee.
Renesmee?
Esme.
Yes. Yay!
What? Full marks? What's that? 8
Kinda.
marks?
Not really at all. What was Jasper's profession before he became a vampire?
Oh, he was in the Civil War, wasn't he? He was a soldier. Wasn't he?
Yeah, but
Where's my ding ding?
But which side was he
Oh,
on?
he was a Confed, I think.
Yeah.
So it was brother against brother back in those days there. Yeehaw.
What does it mean if a vampire's eyes are... Now there's going to be 3 different colors that you have to say what it means, okay?
Okay. 3.
First, black.
They smell the blood.
No. This is not going to go well. I thought you knew more.
Black. It's tired.
Close.
Hungry.
No. Yes. Yes.
Yes, they smell the blood.
I guess.
I get that one. Okay.
No, I'm not going to give that to you. The next one is if their eyes are red.
Smell the blood.
Kinda.
They're in prey mode. They're like hunting.
That would be predator, first of all. No. Oh, you mean prey like...
Yeah.
Like they're preying.
Yeah. Obviously. God.
Well, no, not really. I'll give you a hint. The Cullen's eyes are never red.
They smell the human blood.
The Cullens still smell human blood.
They drink the human blood.
Okay, yes, they have recently fed...
They eat the human.
On a human.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does golden eyes mean?
Watching you.
That's private eyes.
That should be one of the questions.
Yeah.
Say that. Say what does private eyes mean.
What does private eyes mean?
Watching you.
All right, what does golden eyes mean?
It's a James Bond movie. That means they are in love.
No.
That means they are drinking the animal blood.
Yes, or have just
fed. They've just fed
on
human blood.
No!
Animal blood.
Yes.
I don't know why they'd have a different eye color for that.
Because red eyes are the ones that feed on humans. Golden eyes are when they feed on animals. I think it's supposed to represent their like purity or whatever, like their purer souls.
Right. Whatever.
And because the red, seems eviler, and red is blood.
Like Voldemort.
Yeah.
In the books.
In the books. What is the theme of Bella and Edward's prom?
The theme?
You're never good. This is the hardest one, and you haven't gotten the easy ones.
I didn't get the easy ones. I didn't get the medium ones.
Yeah, you didn't get the medium ones.
The theme of the prom. Love?
Think The Office.
Scranton?
No. Think themes that are used in a party at the
Diwali in the office party. What's that guy's name? Bershnickel or something? Bicycles?
No! Gambling! Casino night! The theme is Monte Carlo. But I don't actually know what that means. But I know it means gambling, casinos and stuff.
Monte Carlo's a place.
Do they have a lot of casinos?
I think so.
Where is it?
It's where Casino Royale is in James Bond.
Well, that's why you know what it is.
I think it is.
Yeah, don't get that wrong.
2 James Bond references in the Twilight quiz. Very good.
Which You're never gonna get this.
I might.
Which vampire warns the Cullens that James will come after Bella?
is the only black guy in the whole movie.
No, there's also another black person in the movie. The one who almost hits her with his car.
Ooh. I feel like he has a kind of not very common name.
He's French.
Jacques.
Starts with an L.
Lafayette.
Yep.
Le Mami. L'Écossais.
I told you you're never gonna get it.
I don't know it.
Laurent.
Laurent.
All right, name the other 2 vampires in his posse then.
James.
I said that one earlier.
No, I knew it though.
Oh, you know it.
Lily? Lilibet?
No, I said this one earlier as well.
Bit.
She's the one who walks down in the...
Is that movie helping me? It's distracting me.
After the prom, you know, in her little fur coat.
Alphaba?
There's a tube line that has her name.
Elizabeth.
No.
Victoria.
Yes.
My next stop was going to be Northern.
Or Jubilee.
Yeah.
That could actually...
Jubilee's a character in X-Men.
Yeah, I think people are named that. All right, this one you've already answered, so you have to get it right.
Redux?
What? And it's also not even the first Twilight movie. What is the name?
That's harder. I've
No, you already said it.
Okay.
What is the name of Edward and Bella's baby?
Renesmee.
Yay!
What was that? I think that was an A. That was like 70% at least. British A, maybe.
Yeah. Easy A. Well, that's all from us, folks. Now you have a better understanding of Twilight and of Euan's brain.
Yeah. I mean...
There you go. There's Euan's brain.
Put it to words exactly as only I can, with no words. If you want to see us do more Twilight stuff, tough because I can't put myself through it again. No, I'm just joking. If this does well, we'll probably do more. We'll do New Moon. I think they're all on Disney now, so easy to view.
Although that 19% that voted against Twilight might boycott us.
Yeah, well, that would include me, so... And we can't do the podcast without me. We probably could. Sarah could. I couldn't do without her, though.
Aww. That's when Euan does his classic thing where he compliments me and then he says aww.
It's classic because it's
himself
so good.
For being nice to me.
Someone's
For example,
someone's got to congratulate
let me give you an example. Euan, you look so handsome today. Aw, aren't I so sweet? How does that make you feel?
I was happy with the compliment.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Sounds like you're a bit ungrateful, I think, Sarah. New Moon is, I think, one of the worst movies I've ever seen, so...
Well, yeah. It's also the most boring.
Because there's no Edward. It's all Jacob. Ugh.
So you're Team Edward?
Well, I was more Team Jacob until he fell in love with a baby. I thought that was particularly weird, so...
Yeah. No, it all kind of falls apart.
Yeah, they were going to recast Taylor Lautner because they needed someone more buff, and then he was like, I'll do it. I'll get into shape. Real good shape. And they're like, you can't do it, Shark Boy. And he's like, I bet I can. I'll be Wolf Boy from now on.
Yeah. Well, he did.
And now he's married to someone called Taylor. So there's 2 Taylor Lautners. That must be confusing.
And in the movie Valentine's Day, his character has a thing with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Taylor and Taylor. He just loves
Tay-Tay.
Taylors. Yeah.
Crazy. If you want us to do the movie Valentine's Day, we're probably not going to do that. Unless it's a Valentine's Day special.
Yes.
And someone pays us money up front to do it.
We now have a TikTok.
Yep.
So you can follow us on TikTok. It is popcorn.and.cumin.
It rolls off the tongue. Someone already took popcorn and cumin, I bet.
No, I don't know. It just automatically made that name. I don't know. I don't really understand TikTok.
We need to get 1,000 followers before we can put a link in our bio. So please follow us. We only have 99% of the way to go. Yeah. This is a public service announcement. Follow the Instagram page.
TikTok.
Oh yeah, actually the TikTok as well. We'd like 1,000 followers on Instagram as well, actually.
Yeah. No. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram. We put up videos sometimes.
Yeah, and rate us 5 stars on all the podcasting platforms. And share us with people.
Yeah.
See you next time on Popcorn and Cumin when we're talking about who knows what.
Yeah, maybe we'll let you decide. Maybe.
Yeah, well, we did that this week and look how it turned out.
Kinda. Did we really let them decide? Or were we gonna do this no matter what?
Don't give them the secrets away. Is that Dracula's back? He's come full circle? Or she's come full circle?
I want to suck your blood.
Very good.
Thank you. Don't forget.
Thank you.
Thank you. And don't forget to have your daily bowl of popcorn.